Sonic the Hedgehog has been a never-ending source of disappointment and confusion in my life, so as you can probably tell, I've been a fan of the Blue Blur for 15 years now. I remember getting my first Sonic game when I was 7 years old, and buying it from Morrison's of all places. It was Sonic Heroes, a game at the time which I really liked, and then came to hate, and then came to really enjoy. After playing Heroes, I decided to go back, and after discovering playthrough culture, I ended up finding out about games like SA1, SA2, and the classics and whatnot. So from there, I became a massive Sonic nut. As well as Sonic X being on TV, being a big hand as well. As I've grown up, I've seen the Blue Blur go through many changes and phases in his life. Remember that time he became a fursuiter? The Sonic series though was synonymous with a lack of consistency. A game series that constantly dips, dives, jumps and changes in quality from title to title. The series' low point was with Sonic 06 before its resurgence with the boost gameplay with Sonic Unleashed and onwards. And with his latest title, Sonic Forces, the Blue Blurs manages to once again disappoint his entire fanbase, but for the first time in what feels like a decade now, Sonic's back in a fully positive way in the mainstream media, with the recent release of the Sonic the Hedgehog film. The film's genuinely doing really well and a sequel's most likely on the way, but that's a story for another time. At the minute, everyone wants to talk about the next Sonic game because the attitude surrounding Sonic is, again for the first time in a decade, genuinely fully positive. So what better time is there than now to discuss the next Sonic title, and for me to basically tell you what my wishlist would be for that title. So let's get into what I want to see in the next Sonic game. Before I talk properly about this section of the video, I just want to say that I really do not dislike the boost formula. In fact, I really quite enjoy it. Some of the most stellar entries in the franchise and Sonic Forces all utilize this formula of gameplay, and it's worked really well and evolved over the time it's been used as well, from 2008 to 2011, and then regressed a little bit back in 2017. But it was clear that when Sonic Team decided to move away from the boost formula entirely for Sonic Lost World, creating a new, more open parkour system, that they were sort of done with the boost formula and wanted to take Sonic in a different direction. Unfortunately, because Sonic Team have a habit of being terrified every time they get anything lower than yeah, it's pretty okay, they decided to revert back to the boost formula for Sonic Forces, where all three of its level designers, count them, 3, decided to show us that the boost formula was dead in the water by giving us bland levels where all you do is run at the end holding the boost button, with enemies posing little challenge and little platforming being present. I think for the series going forward, it's clear that the boost formula needs to go or be changed heavily. But given the fact that Sonic Forces decided to use it in such a way and Lost World was a complete departure from it, I think it's clear that Sonic Team may feel the same way as well. Personally, I'd have Sonic control like he does in SA2, with similar level design to accompany this, but for big set pieces I still would have him have access to the boost, and maybe have certain sections of level design where if you do the boost instead of just, say, running off a ramp, it will take you to a different path, making the gameplay diverse and still having a place for the boost. Alternatively, you could just give Sonic max speed sections like in Lost World, so that the boost, or the sense of speed it creates at least, would still be present, while making Sonic control much more fluently in regular gameplay, which is a common complaint when it comes to the boost formula. I also think this would help the level design be a bit more free as well, and actually have room for speed alongside platforming, and making the speed that you earn during the gameplay your own as opposed to it just being given to you by boost, and making it so that when you retain that speed through getting better at the platforming, that it feels like you're getting better and it's rewarding you more. Sonic's not the only character I want to discuss in terms of gameplay though, as since the 90s, Sonic's always had his friends by his side in a playable fashion, including Tails in Sonic 2 and Knuckles in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Over the course of the following decades, Sonic gained a lot more playable friends, including Amy, Big, Gamma, Shadow, Rouge, Eggman, and Omega, Silver, and Blaze, among others. But when Sonic 06 got critically panned back in 2006, Sega decided to throw their anthropomorphic babies out with the bathwater, leaving only Sonic playable. To put it into perspective for you, Tails, a character who made his playable debut in the multiplayer of Sonic 2 in 1992, was last playable 13 years ago in Sonic 06. Knuckles has it a little better, making his playable debut in Sonic & Knuckles and being last playable in 2009 Sonic and the Black Knight, only 11 years ago. To put it into perspective for you, over the past 10 years of Sonic games, the only playable characters have been Sonic the Hedgehog, Classic Sonic, Sonic the Werehog, Avatar, and Shadow the Hedgehog. 3 out of the 5 characters I just listed are just Sonic in some way, shape or form, and the Avatar and Shadow were only playable in the most recent title, Sonic Forces. I'm hoping that this shows a trend that Sonic Team are going to be more willing in the future to reintegrate Sonic's friends as being playable, as this has been a bit problematic for the series in more ways than one, which I'll get into a little bit later. If it were down to me, I'd have 4 playable characters in the next Sonic title: Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Shadow. Sonic, I've already gone over a little bit how I would like him to play, but I'd also give him a couple of new abilities, mostly taking from Sonic 4 Episode 2 in the form of assists from Tails. Obviously, we see it in Sonic Adventure that Tails follows Sonic behind in his campaign, and because of that I think we could introduce this into gameplay as well, a la the classic titles where Sonic and Tails can work together to achieve new heights. I'd take away Sonic's double jump and instead give him an ability, say if you pressed R2, to have Tails help you with some of your jumps. For instance, if you fall down a pit, Tails can, if you hold R2, grab hold of Sonic and try and pull him up, with Tails having a flight gauge to say when he's going to get tired, meaning you have a bit of a saving grace if you mess up a jump. But the trade-off for this is you lose then all of the speed you'd accumulated before making the jump. Alternatively, I'd also give Tails, say if you tapped the button, the option to give Sonic a form of long jump, where when Sonic jumps in the air, Tails grabs him and throws him forward, giving him more speed and a form of long jump, which is a reward for making tight jumps and allows you to reach better areas and better paths. I feel like this would make Sonic distinct and play into his whole character that, you know, him and Tails are meant to be best friends, of course they'd help each other, and I feel like this would be a good way to diversify his gameplay. For Tails, I think I would just give him the adventure formula, do away with the mech he had and just go with him having the adventure formula, with maybe a little bit more focus on platforming because, you know, he's got those two tails, might as well use them for that. My idea for Knuckles is something that might be considered quite controversial, but around the time of Unleashed's release, everyone said the Werehog is a stupid idea and shouldn't exist, so give his gameplay to Knuckles. Take away Knuckles' aspect of treasure hunting for the most part, but give him Werehog style level design and control. I'm talking his big combo list and all the exploration that the Werehog has in his stages. Except instead of having, oh, I have to use my stretchy arms to grab onto this, it's, oh, I can just climb walls and use Knuckles' ability to do that, making it true to the character, as well as giving him a gameplay style that really fits him, I think, for the first time in the series. For Shadow, I think just to make him more diverse to Sonic, I could see him just using the boost formula. Again, hopefully to a Generations level of quality, but if not, you could have Shadow control a little bit faster than Sonic, but give him a chaos meter. When you fill this chaos meter, similar to the boost meter, you can either use two functions: chaos control like in his own game to make yourself go super fast, or chaos control a la time break from Sonic and the Sea of Rings to make things in the level slow down for a limited time. Sort of similar to the Team Blast, I guess, that he uses in Sonic Heroes as well. I feel like this would make all four of these characters unique and all distinct enough to warrant their own gameplay styles and potentially stories in the game. Speaking of story, what a smooth transition that was. Stories in Sonic games are often debated and are pretty much a hot button issue, as there's no one style of story that the fanbase as a whole seems to prefer. People really enjoy the simplicity of the classic games where storytelling is done through just mainly tiny little cutscenes, no vocals, no anything. Same thing with Mania, where the story is told very visually. You have your stories like SA2 where it's a lot more involved and cutscenes are often, and the story is constantly developing with two sides to look at, similar with SA1 where it's all overlapping. Then you obviously have things like Shadow where it's the whole crux of the game and you have your own choice, and in Heroes where it's literally just, go stop Eggman. Okay. Personally, for me, I think the best Sonic stories are those where the stakes actually feel real. Sonic has a real sense of character, and you really feel the fact that he's not just doing this because he's the hero of the story. He's helping people because he actually wants to and feels a need to do so. My favourite Sonic stories are things like SA1, SA2, Unleashed, and Black Knight, with Unleashed, I think, being the pinnacle of Sonic storytelling. The stakes feel real, but it's still got room to have the jokes and whatnot that they seem to be wanting to squeeze in, and ever since they switched writers to Pontac and Graf, I feel like the jokey side of the story has sort of become the most prevalent aspect. You see it in Colours, you see it in Lost World, you see it in Generations. Everything's far too jokey and everything else is far too light. It genuinely doesn't feel like since Heroes has been proper stakes in a Sonic story, which is odd because Forces looked to be fixing that, but then just it didn't, because again it was far too jokey and the characters just didn't feel as if they respected the situation. Personally, I think in the next Sonic game I would like the story to follow a sort of Unleashed Black Knight style of story. Black Knight's simplicity is really good, and the characterization that's built into that is amazing too, which again is something I'm going to talk about in just a second here. Unleashed takes the stakes seriously but still has time to develop characters and build a world around Sonic, a world that actually I think would be perfect as a setting for the next game too. Ultimately, I think you just have to focus on the characters actually respecting the situation and things actually feeling like they matter and have stakes, not just, oh, baldy nose hair 17 times in a row. That's the worst quote in the entire series, I think. The final thing I want to discuss in this story is potentially the thing that's irked me the most about modern Sonic games. More than the story, more than the just straight mediocrity, more than gameplay being just dull at points. And it's characterization. I think hand in hand with the problem of having only Sonic playable, it's really affected how the other characters in the story are actually functioning. My biggest example of this would probably be Sonic Forces and Sonic Lost World. Lost World, Amy and Knuckles literally stand around for the full game and do nothing. Knuckles says at the end, "Oh, well, I would have done that faster than you." It's like, yeah, but you didn't. You just stood there. It's like, oh, we're going to make him this friendly rival character, but then we're not going to show it in his actions. We're just going to tell you that he has it through lines like that. Forces Worlds, where, yeah, everyone seems to have a function within the story, but we never see anybody actively do anything. We have people talking about what they're doing, but we never see it. The only characters who actually do things outside of the main 3 playable ones in Force's story are Silver, Shadow, and arguably Knuckles and Omega. Everyone else just stands around doing nothing, and I don't get what the point is in having all these cool, diverse characters if they're not going to do anything. I think the worst victim of Pontac and Graff's writing and how they characterize things is Tails. Tails has gone from being this super independent character whose just whole story arc was, I don't need Sonic, I can do things on my own, I am independent, hear me roar, to Lost World and Forces, where literally he just stands around and he hides from Chaos Zero, and he just stands behind a rock and gets injured because a rock bashes him a tiny bit in Lost World. This isn't the same Tails who took down the Death Egg. This isn't the same Tails who was fighting Eggman and standing up to him in both SA2 and SA1. This is a different character, it feels like, and honestly it's just really heartbreaking because Tails is genuinely my favourite character in the entire series. I feel like if more characters were playable, this would be less of a problem, and the characters' personalities could shine through a lot better, and maybe remedy some of the situation that we have at the minute, because, you know, Knuckles can talk about how he's made all these military plans, but if all we ever see him do is sit behind control desk and do one thing in one scene, that does not make for the same character we've seen throughout the rest of the series. Sonic is a series I always want to see succeed. I don't think I would have stuck as being a fan for, most of my life if I didn't really resonate with the character and really enjoy what a lot of the games do. And I think by virtue of the fact that the series constantly finds a way to reinvent itself and change itself up and just keep bouncing back from what always seems to look like every once a decade or so, the brink of just falling off and dying, I think that must mean something. It's clear that at certain points Sonic Team are passionate about the game and the series and everything about it, but I just feel like after Forces the series needs to jump back in and with some fresh ideas, maybe a fresh mindset, maybe do what they did for Sonic Mania and just get fans to help work it out, some new blood in the system to help the games feel fresh again and feel like they've got that same passion behind them as the earlier titles do. While I've talked about all the things I would like to see in a new Sonic game, how I would like it to be a new direction, with callbacks and maybe borrowing from the past what worked well, I don't necessarily think that's what we're going to get. I've been adamant for what feels like half a year, maybe more now, that Sonic Adventure will most likely be our next title, and what I mean by that is not an Adventure 3, but a remake of the first game. Remakes and remasters are what is hot at the minute, and Sega loves themselves a trend. And Iizuka himself, the current director of the series, has come out and said publicly that he wants to remake Adventure at some point and have another go at it. I feel like that there's bits and bobs of evidence lining up, and the fact that they've taken nearly 4 years to develop this new game that will potentially be unveiled and announced next month for release next year, probably. They say that 2021 is the next big year for Sonic. I wouldn't be surprised if an SA1 remake is what we get. Would I like that? Yes, SA1 is my favourite game in the entire series, one of my favourite video games of all time, but I hope that they would take that opportunity to look again at the series. I'm not saying get rid of everything they've got, but maybe a soft reboot may be in order. Just start again. Maybe remake SA2 and just go from there. Just make sure that the series doesn't fall back into the habits it was falling back into, and ultimately I'd hope it would try and defeat the nostalgia problem the series has developed. It hit me the other day when I was talking to a friend just generally about the state of the series and discussing what I was going to say in this video, that Sonic's last title in 2017, the 25th anniversary title, that was the last game that came out in the main 3D Sonic line. We haven't had a game since the last anniversary game, and the next game we're getting is probably going to be an anniversary game. The fact that in those 5 years the series has stagnated so much to the point where there's literally nothing new to celebrate is honestly really concerning and upsetting for me. Sonic the Hedgehog is something I'm hoping I'm still a fan of and still playing, or at least still following in 10 years' time from now. And I think it's important for the series' longevity that they take a look and fix some of the problems that are arising now. Otherwise, it won't be an 06 style failure that puts the series in the ground, but waning interest and just lacking passion, resulting in mediocre product after mediocre product, and I feel like the series as a whole deserves more than that. Oh, hello there. I'm Hop Hunks, and thanks for making it all the way at the end of the video if you've done so. It's been a really fun time uploading again, and making this video talking about something that I'm very passionate about in Sonic was pretty cool. So if you feel so inclined, remember to subscribe, because I'm going to be uploading a bit more frequently, and that will be the best way to keep up with what I do. So, yeah, have a good day.